The Cameroonian diaspora has enormous potentials to contribute to the national development back at home. Over the years, they have been supporting families and taking brilliant initiatives in their home country with the aim of improving livelihoods back in Cameroon. But their efforts have been met with enormous challenges which hampers their potentials to be fruitful. In this edition of In-Depth, we shall hear from one of them how the diaspora can have credible impact at home and abroad. Stay with us. Welcome back. My guest is an engineer, a business consultant and politician born in Manfé in the then southwest province of Cameroon. He schooled in Yaoundé before leaving for the United States in 1980. He backed a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Harvard University in 1992 and a master's in biomedical engineering from the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. He also holds an international MBA from Chicago University. He has worked as a business consultant with focus on giving life to dying companies in several major brands in the United States. He will make the headlines in 2016 when he joined the Democratic Party and campaigned for the U.S. Senate. Despite his enormous work in America, he still finds time to come to Cameroon to contribute to the country's national development. Join me to welcome Charles Nana. Charles Nana, thank you very much for talking to us and welcome to In-Depth.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure being in Cameroon, although we try to stay away from the media, but we find ourselves always in the media. Cameroon is home, so we're always happy to be back home.
All right. You were born in Manfé, the southwest province. You schooled in Yaoundé before you left in the United States, and then you hail from the west region of the country. How does this make you feel about Cameroon?
Well, it tells me some of us are the embodiment of the founders of Cameroon. As you just mentioned, I'm originally from the Western Province, born in Southwest, which is an Anglo-Saxon zone. Did my primary education from class 1 to class 5 in Boya. Transferred to Yaoundé, which is a capital, which is a French, is a Francophone zone. Yeah. Finished my primary school in Yaoundé, went to Collège Bilingue d'Application at that time, because now it's called Lycée Bilingue d'Application. Finished there, went to Lycée Bilingue in Yaoundé, and then left. Well, I went to YABADOO to the university for about 3 months before leaving for the United States. There is no better combination or dream that our founders had. An Anglo-Saxon and Anglophone child who grows up in the Francophone zone can speak both English and French. When we see those type, we see Cameroonians who are this bilingual. I know they say Cameroon is bilingual, but Cameroonians are not bilingual. No, we can make Cameroonians bilingual. Sometimes you have children who are born in the Francophone zone, they grow up in Southwest, they speak both languages. That is what Cameroon is known for, a bilingual country, bicultural country. And that heritage has to be cherished. So for me, it's a plus. To me, it's a big plus because it doesn't matter if I'm in Bamenda or I'm in Kuseri or I'm in Yukaduma.
Just like President Paul Biya said that wherever you are in Cameroon, you should feel Cameroonian.
Yes. Yeah. Where, as I said again, I am original for the Western Province. I barely know the Western Province. It's only maybe now that I come as an, at my age, that I go to invest in the West. But the only places I've known is Southwest and Yaoundé. I grew up in Yaoundé. I went to Yaoundé in class 5 primary school. Finished there, went to Collège Bilingue, 5 years in Collège Bilingue, 2 years in Lycée Bilingue, or 3. Then I went to Ngwaikele before I left. How else could you be bilingual? And that is the dream of our founding fathers, a bilingual country where a child, as long as a Cameroonian, can express himself either in English or French, and the counterpart can also express themselves either in English or French, but both can communicate without unnecessary burdens.
All right, your philosophy in life is hinged on hard work. And tell us, how was it growing up?
Well, my upbringing was very modest. My father was not a rich man. My mother used to sell pop-off, and I like to tell people I sold pop-off all the way to high school. Even the first day I went to university, I sold pop-off till about 8 a.m. before going to university my first day. Then I stopped selling. But my father was a Category C public service or public servant, so he didn't make a lot of money. But he taught us hard work. You have to, your results or people recognize you from the work you do. So from the very early stage, he makes sure that you learn how to work. And that is the reason why some of us were able to make it through when we went to the United States. The United States is a land of opportunities, but it's a land of opportunities for those who work hard. If you want to enjoy, there's no greater place on earth than the United States to go and enjoy. But if you want to work, there's no better place on earth that's better to go and work than the United States. But those two don't join. Play and work do not mix. You have to make a choice. And I remember when I just got to the US, my uncle was working at the World Bank. He called me one day and said, "Hey, Charles, let's talk. If you want to have fun, this is the greatest place. If you want to work hard, this is the greatest place. But the tools don't mix. You have to make a choice." Now, I'm from a polygamous home, first child of 14 children. So I have 13 younger ones behind me. So I didn't have a choice. My choice was hard work. And in the US, when you work hard, I did a bachelor's, as you just mentioned, in mechanical engineering, because when I was living in Cameroon, that's one of the things we desperately need in Cameroon. We want engineers who can come and transform the potentials of Cameroon into value added, that can come and make Cameroon an El Dorado of Africa. But unfortunately, we lack that leadership. But anyway, when I went to the United States, I enjoyed mechanical engineering. After I finished my undergraduate, I was also interested in the human body. So I went out and did biomedical engineering, artificial organs. Somebody who has a bad leg, they need to put a prosthesis. We want to look at biocompatibility. We want to make sure that the artificial organs, the artificial heart, or the artificial leg they give you is compatible with your body. And it requires certain skill sets. So engineering. But when I finished engineering school, I was blessed. I was among the top. One of the greatest companies in the United States, called General Electric, hired me on a special program called TLP, Technical Leadership Program. So they went to universities and looked for individuals who were good leaders, but they're also technical leaders, to train them so that they can lead their businesses. I was one of those, and my passion, as I mentioned before, was hard work and quality. So I ended up going into the quality department and did something called Six Sigma. Six Sigma is using statistical data, using numbers to turn around companies, to help companies understand where they're going, understand their performance, and show them the way to make profit and move forward. And that's one of the biggest challenges we have in Cameroon. We lack individuals with that skill set that can help our companies grow. There's no Cameroonian company that is competing on the world stage. Why? We have some of the best and brightest Cameroonians, but we don't have any Cameroonian company on the world stage. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And you have Cameroonians doing well in the United States. A lot of them doing well in Europe. Our government has an obligation, a moral obligation, to find a way to bring back her own children back home to help Cameroon develop. And that is where the rubber hits the road. Because when even those who are so passionate, who want to say, besides the government, we want to come and help our country, Cameroon is home. Cameroon is my home. It's not the United States. Yes, I've made way in the United States. I've gone to the highest level in the United States. It's not everybody who runs for the United States Senate. It's one of the highest offices in the land. After the presidency of the United States is the Senate. And we happen to have an African-born, a Cameroonian-born, running for one of those high offices. I can do more for Cameroon than the United States. Cameroon needs me more than the United States. But unfortunately, when some of us come, and that's a challenge with the diaspora, when we come to Cameroon, especially those of us who speak English, you're nowhere. You cannot be integrated. You are relegated to whatever level they want to relegate you.
All right, sir, we will come to that. Let's go back to your time in the United States. Yes. You went there very young, 20 years. You studied, and then you started work. How was life with the United States, talking about challenges? What challenges did you face?
There are lots of challenges, and I usually like to classify them as first generational challenges, which means I left Cameroon with $428 in my pocket. $428, that's when I landed in the United States, in my pocket. I never stayed one day without going to school. But in the United States, school is expensive. You have to stay somewhere. It means you have to live somewhere. You have to eat. You have to go to work. So some of us find ourselves working round the clock and going to school, and it's not easy. Now, our children cannot go through that. Don't go through that. I'll take my example, take myself as an example. I usually got up in the morning at 4 a.m. I drove a taxi. Well, I first started by washing dishes. I was washing dishes in a restaurant, and I got fired that I was too slow washing dishes. Can you imagine somebody who left the university in Cameroon, went to the United States, he gets fired that he was too slow in washing dishes. But for me, it was a reawakening, telling me that you have to do more. So I left there, and then I started driving a taxi. The taxi is the one that helped me the most, because I can get up, I walk on my own schedule and go to school on my own schedule, although it's difficult. So I get up 4 in the morning, I drive a taxi to 8 a.m., park the taxi in front of the school, go to class, engineering for that matter, then come out of class at 5 p.m., go back on the street, drive to about 10, 11, midnight, and I go to bed. I study between taxi cab rides. That's not easy. But for you to get a proper perspective, I have 3 boys. My 3 boys never knew something like that. All they know is that they have to study. Their food is provided, home is provided, even their pocket money is provided. Allowance. We didn't have that. And that is the reason why, yes, lots of Cameroonians go to the United States, but how many make it to corporate? Not up to 5%, because it's difficult. Those who are lucky and are blessed, their parents can provide their fees in the first 3-4 years, because that's what makes you or breaks you in the United States. Your first 2, 3, 4 years. If you come, you're hanging out with people who just go and drink and make noise, your entire stay in the United States will remain at that level, because all you do is drink and make noise. But if you find yourself among people who want to be among the best, then you go to school, you study. When there are difficulties, you go and meet them as things are rough. I don't have my school fees. Even if it's 10 francs we have, we'll put together and give you to make sure you pay your school fees. So life is very, very difficult. Everywhere, it's called the first generational challenges. You don't have anybody, you don't have a backbone. But those of us who went to the United States, coming from not very well-to-do families, we knew that we had no other bus stop, which means there's nobody in Cameroon, Africa, we can call, say, Papa, it don't bad, send me even 200,000, make a parent. So you have to work and work. And that's what made a difference. And it helped in the long run, because you go to top schools. I went to the University of Chicago Business School. It's among the top 2, top 3 business schools in the world, not only in the United States. It's not because my name is Nana, but one thing is for sure. If I was in Cameroon, there's no way I would have gone to a Cameroon top school, because I'm a Nana and I'm an Anglophone. So my case is even worse. So, but those are type of challenges some of us who went through. We said God was gracious, God blessed us, we're able to leave Cameroon. You work hard, you get to the top schools. In the United States, you work hard, you get compensated, and you get noticed.
Okay, now let's talk about your involvement with politics. In 2015, you stole the headlines across the world when you announced that you were going in for the U.S. Senate in the state of Alabama, which is your home state. Now, what prompted you to delve into politics in the first place? And how did you get yourself into politics?
I did not plan even to get into politics, but I got into politics by default. As I mentioned before, I'm passionate about helping people. I'm passionate about helping communities. So in the U.S., when I went to the state of Alabama, well, before I went to the state of Alabama, as I mentioned before, I did something called Six Sigma, which means we help companies that have difficulties. One of the biggest U.S. steel companies, they were #1 producer of steel during the World War II. They were having tremendous difficulties with steel, competition coming from China, Brazil, and everywhere. So they either survive or they went under. So they went out now looking for experts to help them turn around the company. So I was one of the 5 that were selected. And we were sent to the different regions. I selected the South. So I ended up in Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama, where they have one of their biggest cycolac production sites. So that's how I found myself in Alabama. But being in Alabama, I'm passionate, as I mentioned before, I like helping communities. So I was going to meetings, and the issues that they're raising, children not being able to go to school, communal challenges. Some schools have no teachers. Some schools don't have even classrooms. Students are in classes with no textbooks. So every time I go to those meetings and I try to help. So when they form committees or groups to look into problems, I always volunteer and always like to put me at the difficult committees. So all of a sudden, when it was time for elections, they sent a delegation to come see me one day. They said, Mr. Nana, you've been a very good problem solver for us. We would like you to run for U.S. Senate. I said, I didn't hear you well. He said, yes, we would like you to represent the Democratic Party in the Senate. I said, but I'm not a politician, I'm an engineer. They said, no. The Senate needs problem solvers. The Senate needs people who can look at problems and derive solutions. And that's what engineering is all about. The role of an engineer is look for solutions to communal problems, to the society problems. So they prompted me, and that's how I found myself running for United States Senate. As I will state, I am the first and the only African to have ever run for United States seat. It's a national office. In the United States, there are 100 senators. That's it. Yeah. 100 senators, 2 from every state. And I wanted to be one of those 2 senators from the great state of Alabama. It's quite amazing, but it was, and after the mention, I thought about it, and I thought it was a good thing for 2 main reasons. Number 1, it should tell those of us immigrants that our voices need to be heard and counted. Number 2, we should get involved. You can get involved at the city level. You can get involved at the state level. And when we will talk about that, now, after my running for United States Senate, there are a lot of Africans now running for state offices. So we'll get into it.
There's a Kamoy and Gabriel Ginibot.
It's not only Gabriel Ginibot. Gabriel Ginibot is running for House of Representatives of the 4th Maryland District. But you have another Cameroonian called Dr. Zama Nche. He's running for governor in the state of Pennsylvania. He's a heart surgeon. So we're looking for, and that is what Cameroon needs more than America. People with solutions who want to help their country. But unfortunately, some of us, or most of us, are Anglophones. And as it sits in Cameroon, if you are not part of the Équipe Nationale de Chiba, they would never even want to look at your side, let alone call you. So you find, look at the brain box, heart surgeon. He's running for governor in the state of Pennsylvania. Can you imagine if that gentleman was in Cameroon? How many lives he will be saving? And that is what we're crying about. Cameroon needs all its talents. Cameroon needs all her children to come on board and help this country develop. Whether they speak English or they speak French, we are all Cameroonians. And that is a message. I've been running away from the media because when we give our recommendations, they don't take it. And we get frustrated. And I'm not the only one. Most of us, especially those of us in the US, and that's why you see the diaspora is a little bit bitter. Because we see what others are doing. We feel bad. We say, we have a home. Cameroon is a home. We can come and help. But when you come here, nothing works. You are blocked at every single angle. It should not be that way. The Jews, they work hand in hand with their counterparts in the United States. Jews go home once every year, once every 3 years, once every 5 years, help with science and technology, help their counterpart in Israel do things, the technical know-how. It's not the money that you send that's important. It's showing the little ones, your younger brothers, how things are being done. We want Cameroonians to do that. But the good news is this. With the frustration, we have decided now not only to begin thinking about Cameroon, thinking that Africa as a whole. We used to ship containers to Cameroon in the numbers from the United States. Now it has reduced to almost less than 5%. And even that 5%, we're thinking about begin shipping it to another part of Africa and develop. Africa is Africa. We can no longer be saying Cameroon is home, everything we want to do is Cameroon. No, we need to begin looking at Nigeria, South Africa, and other countries until our political leaders in Cameroon begin to recognize that our children that have gone to Europe and the United States are still their children. And if we are their children, we need a place. But until then, we'll go and help those that are welcoming us, asking us, bring us your skill set. Rwanda. One of the advisors to the president in Rwanda is a Cameroonian.
Cameroonian.
Why should Cameroonians? Because Cameroon is refusing not only to even listen to them, to give them a place. They are now going elsewhere. It's sad. It's very sad. But what can we do? You only have to deal with the hands that you've been given. And we have decided, and I cannot ever emphasize this, we've had this, especially the young, those in the United States. The things we used to ship in large numbers in Cameroon, especially with our customs, our customs is very unfriendly, extremely unfriendly. Let's begin shipping them to South Africa, Nigeria, and other countries that are friendly to us.
All right, we'll come to that in detail, but let's stay within your running for Senate in the United States. You decided to join the Democratic Party. Why the Democratic Party?
It's the values that you have. The Democrats believe in helping people, believe in giving someone a hand and lifting them up. Republicans have a complete different vision. I don't see anything Republicanish in me. But the beauty is, everyone is free to choose what party he wants to belong. The brother that I just mentioned, Dr. Zama, he's running for governor as a Republican. So it says that all Africans don't have the same views, right? I can't stand Republicans with their views. They're anti-blacks. Everything they do is for the rich. I'm very passionate. I also have a lot of compassion for the less fortunate. In Cameroon, I give scholarships everywhere. As I mentioned before, how did I get into politics? Because I was helping minority black communities be aware of the problems, the challenges they have, helping them with making sure we can help get teachers in schools. They can build schools. They can take care of their basic healthcare needs. Those are the values of the Democratic Party. Every child deserves a right to an education. And education is not a privilege. And that is one of the stopping blocks that Democrats and Republicans have in the United States. Republicans believe education is a privilege. Those who have money go to top schools. Democrats say no. Every child, every God's child.
The condition must be made favorable for all.
Every God's child deserves an education. And the law is clear. Cameroon does not have that law. In the United States, every child must go to school until the age of 18. Some of our Cameroonian brothers, I know at least two who ran into trouble because they came to Cameroon, took some kids to go and take care of their children in the US, 14, and I think the other one was 16, and those two children never went to school and they got arrested. A child below 18 must be in school. Now, you live in Douala, just go here to Mabanda. What percentage of children do you think in Mabanda here don't go to school? Is that acceptable? Is that acceptable? You have 10-year-old children, 8-year-old, 15, not going to school. What future do you expect for them? They'll be armed robbers tomorrow. Whether you like it or you don't like it, they'll be armed robbers, and they'll come and rob you and kill you. We have to ensure, we have to protect our children. And the only way you protect our children is give them opportunities to go to school, to better their lives. Education is not the only, schooling is not the only way to success. But it gives you the basic framework, the basic fundamentals to think and know right from wrong and be able to make certain decisions. Cameroon, and that is why so-called Minister of Education, they have to make every effort. Every child goes to school. No child should stay home because they cannot afford school. This is what they just call. I was in Cameroon here when school started. A lot of children have not gone to school because they don't have school fees. It's not right. It's just not right. Public schools are for that. Government schools, as they call them in Cameroon, are for that. Children who cannot afford those heavy school fees in primary school should go to school. It's their right. The child didn't ask to be born. But if he is born, the parents and the government have an obligation to take care of that child. So again, to answer your question, I'm a Democrat. I'm a conservative Democrat. Ginibot is a progressive Democrat. So you see, it depends how we do. I have a lot of conservative values as well. I don't believe in, like in the US, one of the big values is, one of our core constituency in the Democratic Party are lesbians, gay and lesbians. They have a right to what they want to do as long as they don't disturb me in my bedroom, or I don't want to know what they do in their bedroom. But as a conservative Democrat, I can live with that, right? But progressives, for them, it's okay. As a conservative, I have a little bit of problem. As long as they keep what they were doing private and I don't have to know about what they do in their bedroom. I don't want to know what you do in your bedroom, so should the government not come into your bedroom and tell you what to do. Okay, now, what experience did you get from that particular election race? Because it's very intriguing. You lost that particular election, but you won in the urban centers rather than the rural areas. What lessons did that teach you about the American political system? Well, a couple of things. Number one, Alabama is a very, very, very conservative state, which means when I say conservative states, they are heavy, heavy. And then the demographic is 65% white, 24% black, and then the rest are others. Now, I carried very heavily in the urban areas, Montgomery, Birmingham, all those big areas. But in the rural areas, I lost miserably. I was getting 1%, 5%, 10%. Of course, it's expected. Those rural areas are all white. And who is that African guy, that boy that somebody used to say, you have a deep Southern accent? It's a way of making fun of me, right? They're just an indirect way of saying that you don't belong here. Yeah. You're an African, and then let alone you have the guts to want to run to one of the highest offices in the land. In a majority white white area. Yeah. But I carried all the major areas. It's just that the suburbs, I just could not. And when you're getting 5%, 10%, you cannot survive. And that's how, I had 43%, so it's very important. I had 43.6%. So I was close. But that notwithstanding, when I look back, I said, it has opened the doors. The last elections, a lot of Africans ran. This election coming up, as I just mentioned to you, those are 2 Cameroonians. You have about 5 Nigerians also running for local offices. Before, nobody thought that an African, a born African, can represent a state in the United States. We go to the same schools. We do better than some of them, or most of them. Why don't we lead? What are we afraid of? Why are we scared of leading? Exactly. Permit me to ask, what really was the problem? Why were Africans, not ready to embrace political office in the United States? It's not easy. It's not easy. Let me give you a simple example. To run for a statewide office, a national office, as I did, you need a minimum of $20 million. Now, how many Africans have even 500,000 in their account, let alone talk of millions of dollars? Let's be realistic. Election is money. Campaign is money. If, I don't know what party wants to run an election here in Douala, what do? They swam the airways. When they come to advertise in your company here, don't they pay? It's a lot of money. You go to see the chiefs. You give them envelopes, don't you? You go, it's money. Elections is money. To have a crew, have 100 people going out and knocking at doors, you have to pay them. First, Africans will get there. But first generation Africans were not there yet because we don't have the means. And people don't know us that much. They know that Africans, a lot of them are intellectuals, but we've never tried to lead. And then last but not least, some of us are just scared. Politics is a tough spot. It's a dirty spot sometimes.
Does racism also play a role?
Well, you can never exclude racism in anything because you are not in people's hearts. But there are certain actions they take sometimes. Take, for example, sometimes I used to live in Birmingham, and I'll drive 4 or 5 hours to go and campaign in an all-white neighborhood. Just the look that they look at you, it's as if they just want to beat you up. But you have a right to be there, and the laws protect you to be there. Now, what motivates them, God alone knows. I don't want to claim that is racism. But another aspect is if you are not comfortable or you're not used to black people, how can you vote for a black man? If you have not lived around a black person or know what somebody who is black does, let me bring it to Cameroon, because people like to generalize. Let's say you are from Bali, but you are living in Douala, but you've not been around the Douala people. How the Douala people vote for you? They don't even know you. You have to be out there. And to be out there, you need time and money, which first-generation Africans do not have. I don't know if you have any brother who just went to the United States lately. How much money do you think he can have? He goes there, he does mostly manual jobs. $5, $10, maybe $20 an hour. If you get 20, even $50 an hour, but those are experts that start making $50 an hour. $50 an hour, 40 hours is 8,000. What is it? 50 times 40, that's 20,000. How much can he spend in a campaign? Well, after 20,000, government has to take his own part. We call it Uncle Sam taxes, about 33%. So he doesn't have money to do a lot of things. And that's the challenge that first generations do have. Now, you have some Africans who have gone into business and are doing well. So they have extra change in their pocket. Now they can venture into politics. But that's also where Africa should benefit, Cameroon in particular, because we have some Cameroonians who are very loaded. But they don't want to come to Cameroon, or they've tried to come to Cameroon, and they've dealt with them, and they just said, no, Cameroon is no longer for me. We cannot keep running. The government has to help us want to come back in our own country and help Cameroon grow. Cameroon must be and will be the El Dorado of Africa. With the right leadership, we will get there. And I'm very, very, the best days for Cameroon are still ahead. So I'm very, very optimistic. Cameroon, the best days for Cameroon are still ahead. And it will happen.
All right. You were very, very angry at the fact that the diaspora is not giving its fair chance to contribute to the development of Cameroon. But you continue to come back and try again. What keeps you moving despite the challenges?
I am not the diaspora. I am one. I'll just take the U.S. diaspora because I'm one of, I don't know how many thousands of us are in the United States. We have different experiences when we come to Cameroon. I just gave you simple examples that you get first. The first time I came to Cameroon, I brought caterpillars. My caterpillars got stuck at the port because they asked me for bribe and I refused. I went all the way to seeing the Minister of Finance. That didn't help me. I lost my caterpillar at the port. Now, just even assume that my father is the one who manufactured that caterpillar. How much did I pay for transport from the United States to Cameroon? Pay for all the steps at the customs? For me to lose the caterpillar. Once you do that, you don't come back anymore. You just say, I'm done with this country. I don't want anything to do with them. And that is why you see when there are political issues like this, some in the diaspora, especially in Europe, they go to the embassy and make a lot of noise. But the government also don't listen to moderate voices like us. They listen to the extremists who want to make noise.
And that's what perhaps complicates the relationship.
It complicates the relationship. But you cannot only act when you are against the war. And some of those people who go and make noises, is because they have tried peaceful means and it's not working. I'll give you a simple example. I have containers at the port. You come, you bring a container at the port. The people who give you the value for the cars that you have in the container is a French company called SGS. They give some outrageous values. Now you don't agree with it. You have an opportunity to go to arbitrage. A new law about a week ago or two came out from customs. To do all arbitrage in Douala, you have to go to Yaoundé. Look at the roads going to Yaoundé. How many accidents do we have per day from Yaoundé to Douala?
And not many people can afford air transport.
And not many people can afford air transport. Even forget about Yaoundé, Douala. Yaoundé, Western Province. Have you seen the roads? So now they're telling you that if a French company, SGS, says your car that you bought in the US for $500, that's $250,000. SGS is saying that you have to pay the government $2 million. And you're saying, no, that value is too high. I bought it for $500. Then they tell you now that you have to go to Douala, go to Yaoundé to argue that. Why? So it tells me they don't even trust their own colleagues that they appoint to work in Douala. You understand what I'm saying? There are custom offices here in Douala. Why can't the people in Douala resolve the issue? You have to go to Yaoundé. Are the people in Yaoundé extraterrestrial? Trust the people you have in place. That's not all. You finish, let's say you pay all your custom duties, your container leaves the port. Before it gets to destination, to your shop, at least 4 different groups of custom officers have intercepted you. The worst is once you get to your shop, they just come like bees. They want to check every single paper. Meanwhile, you just came from the port and you've resolved everything at the port. Why that 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times change, a check? Because they don't trust each other. How can we operate as a nation when we don't trust the people that we've put in place to execute certain transactions or activities for us? We have a fundamental problem in Cameroon. We have a fundamental problem. And that's why when you've gone out of Cameroon, you've seen what they do in other countries. You come here, you get frustrated, very frustrated. As I was saying, those of us in the US that I'm building a hotel in Yaoundé. At this point, I think it was a mistake because the headache I'm getting is not worth it. Moving forward, we'll take our investments to South Africa, Nigeria, and Ghana. But it pains you because Cameroon is home. But you cannot do anything in your home. I just gave you an example. If you take your container from the port to get to Bonabere, which is less than 10 kilometers, ask anybody how many groups of custom officers will stop you on your way. Then when you go, you start offloading, at least 15 custom officers will come there. There's one called Akomik. There's one called Brigade Mobile. There's one called this. They all come, and all of them that come to check the same paper that those at the port have already checked. Why? Why?
Administrative bottlenecks.
And then, and you have to, and they will look for, and then you spend, so by the time you finish, you ask yourself, is it even worth it? Does the headache worth it? Yes, we want to be patriotic, and I think most of us in the diaspora are even more patriotic than those who are in Cameroon. But is it worth it? Is the headache worth it? And my answer at this point is no. I don't think it's worth it. At some point, you just have to say, maybe those who have abandoned, they were right. Something has to change.
All right, now, talking about changes, what changes are you expecting? What proposals would you make for the Cameroonians abroad to play a concrete role in developing the country?
Well, our government first have to recognize that they have citizens that can add value. Right now, they don't.
Dual nationality?
Dual nationality is a big one. Dual nationality will facilitate Africans, Cameroonians in particular, in the diaspora to come home without any headache. It surprises me and it baffles me why a country like Cameroon will refuse its own citizens who have taken other nationalities not to come home. Canada, which is just next to the United States, is begging and have been begging for years its citizens in the United States to take Canadian nationality. so that they can be coming to Canada once in a while and help develop the country. And if you look among Cameroonians, those in diaspora have a little bit of money. My younger brother is building a 10-story building in Yaoundé. 10. They have a little bit of money. He's a medical doctor. They have money that they can invest in Cameroon. Cameroon needs that type of investment. But I think the message is clear. We want your money, but we don't want to hear your voice or we don't want to see you. Just send the money. And that cannot work. Right? They want you to bring the money and invest. Because when we invest, we create jobs. I have a store here. I employ people. I'm building in the Western Province. I employ people. I'm building in Yaoundé. I'm employing people. But they don't want to hear your voice. They don't even want to see you. There are other countries that will attract you. So if they make it attractive for those in the diaspora to come, another proposal that I offered the government, invite Cameroonian experts to Cameroon, maybe once a year, once every 2 years, once every 3 years. In compensation, just give them a small land, even in their village. Even a small land in their village. The building I have in Yaoundé, the reason for that building was to create a center for experts, doctors. Bring specialty doctors. My wife is a specialist, physician, specialist. They come to Cameroon, I pay their transport, lodge them, provide everything they need. But they should give me 2 to 3 weeks of good work while in Cameroon. Maybe this week I take them to the northern province. They examine patients in the northern province for free. The next week, I take them to the Western Province. They examine patients because we don't have that expertise in Cameroon. We in the diaspora have access to those machines. We can import them to Cameroon. But try to import a medical machine to Cameroon and here see what custom will do to you. They'll finish you. And it doesn't make sense. Some of us could have just stayed in the US and be comfortable. Getting to the stable of running for United States Senate is not given. It means you are comfortable. You are very comfortable. But when we decide to come in our own homeland, Cameroon is our country. We're born here. We're happy when Cameroon is prospering. When we hear good news from Cameroon, we are excited. But those in leadership don't see it that way. They see the diaspora more as a threat than as a resource. And that's a problem. And if you talk to those in leadership in Cameroon today, there's a language that has been coming out now within the last 4 or 5 years. There's a diaspora positive, a diaspora negative. We are all diasporans. There's no diaspora positive and negative. Those people who are negative is because they have come to Cameroon and they've been beaten and they got bitter. Nobody grows up to want to be bitter against his own country. It's just that when you come here, a lot of people come, they abandon their containers, they abandon the thing, or you send money to Cameroon. Like, forget about in the government side. You send money to your brother in Cameroon.
Yeah, family members.
And family members say, build me, this is the house I want to build. You send money to go and take pictures of somebody else's house and send to you. Then you're coming out to Cameroon thinking that your house is finished. You just come in and walk into the house, you come, they say, even land, they don't be buying. I'm sure you know at least a few people like that. I know others that just even got mad when they got here. Say, but I've sent over 20 million. They said even land, they did not buy. All they did was they went and saw someone that was building, started filming. As a man is building, they're filming and sending it, and you're sending money. What? Because our culture has become one of dishonesty. Someone told me, au Cameroun, maintenant, c'est la frappologie qui compte. L'art de frapper. You know what that means?
Yeah, to dupe.
To dupe. If you send a 10-year-old or even a 7-year-old child now to go and buy bread, give him 500, bread is 300, does he come and give you your 200 francs? No, you're laughing, but it's not a laughing matter. Yeah, but that is our culture.
I'm laughing because it's not true.
Yeah. It's unfathomable. You give him 500 to buy bread for 200, he will not give you the change.
You have to use force to take the change.
Yeah, but Cameroon also believe in force. So you have to use force. You don't have to use force to get a 200 franc, but you can use other means to get it back. You come here, you see, you greet your sister on the road. The first thing will tell you that she's late for her rent. Her rent is due by 5 months. The auntie is sick. The grandmother is sick. Well, you only just salute it. Why? Why? We've come to a culture, the country has gone to a stage where everybody wants to dupe the other person. We need to go back to those times where relationships matter. Respect for elders matter. We are all children of Cameroon and we want the best of Cameroon. We should look for a way to make sure every Cameroonian contributes his own 2 cents. And I take the reverse argument when I go to the US. Because when I go to the US, those guys say, no, I don't want to deal with the country. I say, you have to. You cannot run away. See, I argue on both sides. Because my hope is that, yes,
you can trigger the change in
Cameroon. You can trigger the change in the US. I've always tried to play that middle road. But when you play that middle road, some people don't want to see you, right? If they are so passionate and they take strong positions, they think you are against them. From both sides. From both sides. I remember I spoke to one CPDM politician. He said, mais sénateur, vous êtes contre lui. Je dis que je ne suis pas contre vous. Je suis Camerounais d'origine. Je veux le meilleur pour le Cameroun. Donc quand ça ne va pas, je vais vous dire que ça ne va pas. Je sais que ça ne va pas vous plaire, mais je dois le dire. I have to say it. Then when I go to the other side, you cannot abandon Cameroon. Cameroon is our homeland. If you don't go back to develop Cameroon, who will develop Cameroon for us? The white man will not develop Cameroon for us. We have to develop Cameroon. And that's why we come. I come to Cameroon 3 times a year, minimum. 3 times. And half of my time I spend fighting with people. You leave your land, by the time you come, people have built on it or built around it. You find yourself in court, fighting for land that you have the land title. Because we've become a country that everybody wants to be dishonest. And it's a power of force. We've started believing the French approach to things, the argument of force. That's not the Anglo-Saxon culture. The Anglo-Saxon culture is the force of argument. That's most important. The French strongly, including the French government, they strongly believe in the argument of force. Everything is force. That's not the Anglo-Saxon culture. And that's why some of us have asked and keep praying that we need to go back to federalism. So that young Cameroonians, our children, can see the values of both sides. There are certain aspects that the French culture is better. There are certain aspects that the Anglo-Saxon culture is better. And there's no place more blessed than Cameroon where we have both cultures. And we can bring the two together, get the best out of the two, and build something unique Cameroonian. But unfortunately, those who are at the driver's seat think that it's only their way or the highway. And their way is not the right way most of the time.
All right. That takes us now to the situation in the country. You have come back to Cameroon at the time when the 2023-2024 school year has begun, but with some challenges. Some teachers in public schools are on strike. We do have the Anglophone crisis with killings. And we have about 2 years to the 2025 elections. When you look at Cameroon from a socio-political and economic standpoint, what is your reading?
Cameroon is going through very difficult times. We have to be honest about it. Very difficult times. But they are solvable. But we must have that political will to resolve them. Let's start with the teachers. Lots of the teachers have not paid. They are threatening to go on strike. These are people that are teaching our children. These are people to form the next presidents of Cameroon. They are not being paid. It's not that Cameroon does not have the money to pay them. Cameroon does have the money to pay them, but we don't have the political will to pay them. And that's a problem. How much are we spending with this useless war in Northwest and Southwest? We can take half of that money, pay all teachers plus give them 10 years advancement for their salary, and a lot of money will still be left. Why do we allow Cameroonian youth to die on both sides for nothing? We can sit on the table. As I said again, the founders of this country wanted a bicultural, bipolitical system. Your children are angry. Bring them on the table. Let's sit down and talk. There's nothing more that will be above us from sitting and talking. So Cameroon is going through tough times. You have COVID that came. Then you have the war in Ukraine.
The Russian-Ukraine war.
The Russian-Ukraine war. So you have a lot of inflationary pressures, which means prices of everything has gone up. The average Cameroonian is under duress. They cannot make ends meet. Let's take a simple civil servant. Even if he makes 200,000, give him 300. And most of our civil servants don't make 300,000. But just say he makes 300,000. He pays rent for 100,000. He's left with 200,000. If he has 2 children going to school, he doesn't have anything left. He has to feed the wife. Most of the time, if you're working, you might be the only person in your family working. So mommy go ask. Your brother go ask. Your in-laws will ask. We're going through very tough times. I take it back again to the port. Those of us in the diaspora have started cutting down on things we ship to Cameroon. And even some small businessmen in Cameroon also have stopped importing things because the custom duty and taxes are just so high. Instead of the Cameroon custom to bring down their custom duty so that to encourage more import, what have they done? They've increased it for the increased custom on the few that are importing to compensate bad politics. Bad politics. I gave you a simple example here. If you have a simple arbitration, they want you to go to Yaoundé. Look at the road from Yaoundé to Douala. How many people die there every day just to go there and argue? Are the people, why then do we have custom officers in Douala? If you have for the simple thing like just simple arbitration, you have to go to Yaoundé. We can do more. Thirdly, businesses are suffering because of excessive taxes. Excessive taxes. I have a small business here in Bonaberi. At first, you used to pay your impôt. You go to your taxation center and you pay your 50,000. They give you your impôt. Now, that's not it. You have to go and pay in the bank. When you go to the bank, what happens? The bank takes its own part. The government... So you used to pay in Douala. Douala will take it and channel it to Yaoundé. But since Yaoundé doesn't trust Douala, Yaoundé tells you all deposits will go into a particular account. So you go now to the bank and deposit in one account. But when you go to the bank also has to take its own. So now you're not only paying 50,000.
You pay charges and you pay the tax.
Now you're talking. So now you're paying taxes, you're paying the charges.
And you're paying the tax on the transfer.
And you pay the tax on the transfer. Yeah. Why? The old mommy who is selling popov or is selling gari, for me, that's not an issue. But the old mommy, the mother who doesn't have much money, you're sucking them dry. How much do they have to sell to compensate for what they've just paid for taxes? Then when you open the business, every 2 days, it's either impôt that comes, the one says Minister of Commerce, the other one says na commune, the other one says, you get like 50 different people, everybody comes show badge, say he wants this. Is that normal? Is that normal? At a time when our people cannot put food on the table. So we are going through very tough times. We can overcome it. We just need to have the right policies in place. Another thing that I had recommended to the government over 10 years ago, before even this motor taxi crisis came in, encourage these young individuals with diplomas, PhDs, master degrees that are driving motorcycles, encourage them to go into plantation. Un moto taxi, une plantation. Un moto taxi, une plantation. And you choose where you want to cultivate. If you are from, I don't know where you're from, but just say you are from Northwest, your commune or your division will help you locate place where you can farm. We have food crisis in Cameroon. How much is a cup, is a bag of rice today? Or even one bunch of plantains? The price has doubled. So if you go, and agriculture pays. Agriculture pays. And not only that, you can eat the raw plantain, or you can even transform it into something that can be conserved. So if you remove just half, not even half, 20%, those are 1,000 people who are driving Bensikin, you take them down into the rural areas to be planting only plantains and cassava. Do you know the difference it will make on the prices in the market? But the government is not encouraging it. Why can the government not encourage our youth to leave the streets? And encouraging is not by mouth, because we like to knock big discourse, big talk. Put a little bit of funds. Take half of that money we're spending in Northwest and Southwest, where our youth, the future of tomorrow, is dying, and invest it in and put it in agriculture. And get those who want to go and work farms, they go. Guarantee them that you'll buy their product if you want to manage it. You can even say, if you bring 100, we will buy your plantains at this price. Or you take this, we'll give you this money, you pay back like this. There are lots of opportunities. But we have to change our priorities.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Charles Nana. It's a pleasure to have you here come talk to us. The pleasure is always mine. And I hope that our discussion today would help one or two individuals. And then our government will have to review the way it deals with its diaspora. We want to help. We are Cameroonians. We are passionate to come help. We're passionate to be part of the development of Cameroon. Please don't exclude your diaspora in the development and building of this nation. Thank you. Thank you too. And to you, televiewers, it was a pleasure being with you in this edition of In-Depth. Until next time, it's bye-bye.